All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the April 25th working group meeting. We'll start off this morning with some introductions from some first timers here. I know that Keith Ellis is joining us for the first time this morning. Keith, would you mind just giving a brief introduction to the group, who you are, and what brings you here?
Yeah, so I've actually got a couple folks from my team that I've invited as well. But Keith Ellis here with Vertical Data, really focusing on the ag tech world, anything to do with vision and AI, hardware and co-location, but also AI on site. But I'm not sure if my colleague was able to join. I believe Hamid or Jesse are also on as well. I brought my CIO. I'm not sure if they're in attendance, but really looking forward to be part of the group. We've done some fantastic work with U of T right now that we're starting with a proof of concept where they're utilizing our AI VBox vision to help annotize a lot of images. But Hamid, I'm not sure if you're on. If you want to give a quick intro. Otherwise, I'm very much looking forward to working with everyone on the group and helping all things AI. And if there's any cameras involved, anything like that in the ag tech business, we have a great use case for that as well. So, not sure.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Keith, for the
Oh,
intro. Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if you guys are getting a background noise from where I am.
Nope, you're good at the moment.
No background noise? Okay, great. So yeah, my name's Hamid Tajam. I'm the CTO at Vertical Data. I have about 25, 30 years experience going back to early on, was a part of a few data warehousing startups almost 30 years ago. Most recently, I was a CTO responsible for analytics and AI at Dell. I actually started out at EMC, and through the Dell takeover, I spent about 13 years there looking after everything that had to do with analytics. In other words, Hadoop and things in that environment. And then the last 5 or 6 years, mostly focused on AI. So machine learning, neural networks, everything. And I really appreciate the opportunity to join the group and speak with you guys.
Excellent. Thanks so much and welcome.
thank you, Hamid. That's wonderful. Thanks, Dan.
No problem. I also see Caesar Kappa is joining us this morning. Caesar, would you mind giving an introduction to the group?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks for the invitation. First, I heard really great things about this group. I work for the OMAFA. I started last week. This is the end of my second week. I'm replacing Christine Ovid as the weed management specialist, horticulture. My background is in agricultural engineering, and the last 5 years I work on, almost 5.5 years, I work in vertical farming. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but a lot of robotics, a lot of technology there, like that industry is like in the cutting edge of innovation in agriculture. And so I have some experience with this sort of technology, not much in horticulture particularly. Um, but I'm super excited to see what you're working on, and I hope I can add value.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Next up, I see that Alyssa Curon is on the call. Alyssa, would you mind introducing yourself?
Absolutely. Good morning, and thank you so much for having me here. So I'm Alyssa Curon. I'm an industry strategist in the marketing and outreach arm of the University of Waterloo's co-op department. We've been really excited to spend more time focusing on agriculture, ag tech, food-related areas, all in terms of driving awareness among potential new employers to grow more quality jobs for our students. And Waterloo may not necessarily be the first school that comes to mind with agriculture and things like that, but with all the advances in tech, robotics, the emerging workforce needs, I'm just really glad to be connecting in more with groups like this. And I'll just say briefly, I'll be back in a few weeks with one of my colleagues from the engineering research side to present all around, not just how to access talent from us, research partnership opportunities with our faculty. We have lots of great robotics and similar research like that. So thank you for having me, and I'll guess I'll be on camera again in a few weeks.
Perfect. Thanks, Alyssa. Looking forward to it. I see Ian Butcher is on the call this morning. Ian, do you mind saying hi to the group and letting us know who you are and what brings you here?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ian Butcher. I'm the Senior Manager of Research Projects at Fanshawe College's Center for Research and Innovation. So we're quite interested in what's going on with the group. We're looking to do more work in this space. We have a couple of research centers that we operate that kind of touch on some of these aspects. We have a research center dedicated to sort of IoT devices, PCB prototyping and fabricating, AI, machine learning, large-scale data analysis. And we've been involved quite a bit with the Western Fair on sort of the food processing side. We're hoping to get more involved on the ag robotics and ag tech side as well. So yeah, just excited to be here and hear what the group has been working on and all the stuff that you guys are talking about, because it all seems really cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. And it is really cool. So happy to have you here. And then I see they're not on the list for this week, but Dhruv Sharma is on the call. I hope I pronounced that right. Would you mind introducing yourself to the group?
Yes, you pronounced it correctly. Thank you. So my name is Dhruv, and I am with Convolve AI. We work in the field of vision and AI, and have been primarily looking at manufacturing and industrial settings for video analytics. Plus, we are in talks with some of the municipalities for helping bring vision and AI solutions to solving problems within municipalities. And I found about this group at the Discovery X conference, and agriculture has been one of those areas that is really important and can use a lot of innovations from vision and AI. So how we can fit in and how we can help propel this field forward. And also, I'm an alumni from Waterloo and U of T. And I see a Waterloo Co-op being represented here. So I totally recommend it. It's amazing. And Waterloo Co-ops, if anyone wants to hire, are really good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the introduction, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
I believe I caught everybody, but was there anyone who is new joining us this morning that I might have missed in the call who wants to say hello?
Hi, I'm new.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I'm Kaya. I'm in a Master's of Environment and Sustainability at Western, and I'm going to be working with Western Fair and Haggerty Ag Robotics as their research coordinator this summer. So I'm excited to join the group and learn more about everyone and the work you guys do.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thanks for coming.
One more at least, anyways.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Chris Bidernosti. I'm a professor at the University of Winnipeg, and our group, research group called Terabyte, involved in digital ag. We have a couple data rovers that have been built for us by local ag manufacturer, Artec Industries, and we're at the stage of trying to put the brains in it. So this is kind of a good group to probably pick up some ideas, and at some point I think it'd be wonderful if we could present as well on our work.
Yeah, so you connected with Emily out
yeah, we do with yes, we do. Yeah.
So Emily's a good partner of the working group here, and I think Chuck's got some robots from Haggerty Ag Robotics going to be demoing out there. So
Great.
Yeah, if there's anything we can do to support you. Have you met Chuck?
I have not.
Maybe. Oh, there he is. Chuck, do you want to introduce yourself quick?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Chuck Barisic, Haggerty Ag Robotics. Nice to meet you.
Nice to
And
meet you.
nice to meet you too, Kaya. We've been emailing back and forth, so.
Yeah, I've been to your website, so nice to meet you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Christopher.
Yeah.
Um,
One more, I'll jump in.
all right, go for it, Glenn.
I'm Glenn Friesen. I work with the Department of Agriculture here in Manitoba and working in the area of uh, research project collaboration between academia. Chris Banoski's a colleague and a contact of mine as well, as others on this call, and been immersed in this world for several years. And now our department is engaging in a larger conversation to understand some of the issues and opportunities around digital tech, something the department would like to learn more about. So I learned of this from a colleague here, Carl Havexbeck, and so I appreciate the invite and looking forward to listening in here.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us.
And you're connected with Emily, Glenn, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Alrighty then. Well, welcome to all of our new members. Good bunch joining us this week, so it's always great to see that membership growing. Okay, with that, I think we'll head over into our presentation for the week. This week, we're being joined by Sai Satharman from Spica Systems. He's gonna be talking to us about some cyber threats. So, Sai, please take it away.
Hello. Thank you for your time. Just quickly introduce myself. I'm a partner at Spica Systems. We've been working on securing cloud IoT and the infrastructure part of it. Most recently on the precision agriculture. We have done some research in relate to the AI models that these precision agriculture tools and infrastructure can use. And that has been published. So we thought it would be interesting to talk about the various threats and the attack surface and what's going on. So Spica has been with the agri robotics group for quite some time, and we're based in Toronto. So with that, let me go ahead with the presentation. All right. Okay, hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about the infrastructure cyber threats today. And so I'm going to briefly mention what these are. And in the interest of time, so I'm going to go through, I have several slides that is of interest to everybody here. So we'll go through that in just a moment. But essentially, we're going to see kind of the real world incidents and why the specific fact that the smart farming is of a target. And we'll look at some of the attacks that typically happen. What are the unique challenges to the agricultural, specifically on the infrastructure side, and what do people do in general about the guidelines and standards and so on, right? Okay, well, so one of the main things is that we all know that the modern agriculture environment is increasingly digitized and automated. And that leads us to installing various sensors, network firmware, as we all know. And so the primary cause of this is that there is a real world target for cyber criminals and nation states. And what does it do? It basically brings on and disrupts some of these global supply chains. You could have automation schedule disrupted. You could have food shortages and things like that. And these are indeed what we have seen in the past. And I've kind of collected some of the most recent real world incidents. For example, the federated co-op in 2024 resulted in quite a number of food shortages. The shelf, so most of the items gone from the shelf for quite a number of years. So the important thing is these attacks seem to have started mostly as a ransomware, where people, the insider or an external one, send in some ransomware and look at some of the weak or vulnerable tools and network components and firmware. They target that and go after some of these infrastructure elements to essentially put some kind of a denial of service or some kind of complete taking it down. And that's what we've seen with Dole as well. So these I thought were very interesting. And they most of the time they have been resulting in supply chain shocks. The IT environment is taken out, or the automation is completely stopped. So somebody has to go in there and take a look at as to what happens. And when that happens, typically there's a human element involved to find out what happened, and that typically takes much longer time. And in a moment, I'll go through what exactly is causing the effect of that is. So here's a quick summary of how they actually map to some of the attack tactics, and what's the impact of it. For example, the federated co-op is a complete logistic disruption for several weeks together. And in the case of new cooperative, there was a grain shortage. So they start off as a ransomware, but then they actually go into the network and kind of go to the process of taking out the firmware, or completely installing a new virus that takes out the internal parts. They also use unencrypted channels. Typically these are hard to encrypt because these sensors are pretty low power. And so they take advantage of those kind of situations. I like this particular slide because it gives an overview of the IT infrastructure that's typically in a smart farming. Again, this is by one of our co-researchers at University of Guelph. And so if you look at it, there's essentially 3 or 4 different layers that's of interest. And I'm sure many of you have fallen into some of these, is that we need to look at the physical layer, the edge, cloud, and the network part of it. And so this particular slide is much important in kind of showing where you're placed and what's a typical a typical weakness that you could expect. So that said, what are some of the technological aspects or the vulnerabilities that can happen? So one of them is sensors, obviously, the data collection engines. You could have things like soil moisture, IoT connectivity, and streams like that. The GPS and GIS are one of the important aspects in the machinery and drones as well. And the most important vulnerable piece is the edge and the cloud part of it, where we process and send the data out, but then they are typically out to the upstream to the network. And so that's where many of these vulnerabilities happen. So more recently, the AI and predictive models have been also under attack, and that's part of one of our most recent research that have been published in IEEE. We'll talk about that in just a bit. But essentially, what it means is as you go into more and more automation, we would like to use some of these AI ML models to see what can be done, what can be what can be expected in the coming sessions to redo the automation. And that's where the ML models or can be disrupted to take advantage. So we'll look at that in just a bit. So again, this is one of cool slides that I've picked from the source, and I'm sure you would like to see. Most of these attacks happen on the hardware. Obviously, the hardware and the network are more open, and the way they happen is by looking at side channel, by taking advantage of the wireless routers, default password, and things like that. The data leakage and data extraction is also one of the most critical ones. They result in ransomwares. They install ransomware and they let you not to operate that until you pay the ransom. So things like that are pretty common. And as much as we don't want to see this, these are seem to be pretty common. As I was studying and we were doing some of the research, we were finding that a lot of these are indeed as common as any other typical network infrastructure element. Sorry, I'm going a little bit quick, but if you have any questions, anyone, please feel free to interrupt, or we can go with the questions at the end. So some of the unique challenges in agriculture, or just highlighted the black ones, so they're physically unprotected and they're fairly remote. Somebody needs to be on the field to find out what has happened wrong. So you would come to know much later after some kind of a disruption has happened, automation has failed, and so it is kind of limited by both the remote infrastructure as well as the cybersecurity expertise that's needed and the time taken to act upon it. These are some things just to be aware of, to know and invest in this cybersecurity for agri in the right world. Um, And to summarize, the type of attacks that has happened from the most recent incidents, the most common ones are ransomware that results in targeting the food processing and logistics. And they actually try to install some virus and extract data and then ask for ransom. That's a typical one. The exploitation and misconfiguration to disrupt the whole system is generally another one. In the case of the deer tracking hacking, just for the fun of it, the hackers, temporarily disabled the proprietary firmware, though it was done as an ethical hacking mechanism, and then the tractor could not be operated in an automated way. Smart irrigation sense, so the system manipulation is definitely one of the top ones that we have seen. And that results in disruption of the irrigation and water supply. That can be a huge thing. And the most recent one, obviously, that we have worked on is that the AI models themselves are a target for data manipulation and model poisoning and things like that. So effectively, the decision-making models themselves are under attack, and that's a huge deal. In terms of the threat surface, so obviously we've seen that it's either physical network, software, or cloud. And okay, let's see what we have. Okay, so we're going to go through some of the physical and the various aspects of what could be causing it. The weakness that are seen typically in these in the physical part of it, at least, are the sabotage of the robots and the sensors, and unsecured boot sequences, and completely killing the boot sequences and operating system is one of the main things. Camera hijacking is also is considered one of the intelligence gathering mechanism that's been used by nation states. The firmware and the OTA vulnerabilities, or in a sense of not updating those firmware, is a very common one that results in typically using old passwords, old vulnerable firmware that can be targeted to install ransomware, is one of the more common things, and so on. So these are some of the physical aspects that one would take care if you want to actually secure some portion of the agriculture infrastructure. And in terms of network weaknesses, the most important one is the absence of TLS and the SSL. And this is for a good reason, because these devices are low power ones. They cannot handle really high encryption, data encryption, but the data is really small. So generally, it is recommended that any kind of data that's coming out of the device, like MQTT and any of these time series data, should be also protected. The credential exposure is definitely one of the most important attack that we've seen. And obviously the key management and persistent long-term access. You don't want to provide any mechanism for the attacker to stay in the system for a longer duration. So that means you have to rotate the keys. If you're using some kind of a, AES kind of a encryption scheme, you would want to rotate them as often as possible. These are the network type of weaknesses that you may want to address. The software weaknesses is the most prone because it's much more easier to break in firmware and legacy software. The most important being the insecure operating systems that are in the firmware, the old ones that lead to command injection and so on. Obviously, weak cryptographic practices that we've seen, misconfigured cloud access that we have seen, man-in-the-middle kind of attacks are something that that's more common, and also the data time series and uploading of the files or the data itself is prone to these kind of attacks. The cloud weaknesses, most of these components nowadays come with cloud manageability in terms of sending data out to the cloud and then having analytics done on it and expediting automation. That's quite a bit of convenience, but it can also lead to several of these access control and other publicly exposed services. We've seen cases in which the data was exported to completely unprotected S3 bucket access, for example. And that results in, if somebody finds it, they completely download the data and they secure the S3 and then ask for a ransom. So that's a typical one that we've seen. And weak logging and alerting. We've seen many of these things that the logging and the alerting has completely been skipped because it costs something for the devices to be logged, and in case you want to do some kind of a forensic analysis in future, it's hard to do that without any of these logging mechanisms. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about the standards and guidelines because while we were doing the research, we hardly find anything that's that the industry or the practitioners can use. The only one thing that is coming close to it is the NIST's the IoT baseline profiling. That's more of a guidance, but I've seen a few of these come along right now. I think this is one of the important thing that can be enforced or followed by the practitioners and researchers together. All right. Okay. So let's see. I think one of the things that's coming out of these standards, and this is kind of a concise summary of what's seen in these guidelines and the standards. So I kind of uh, took some of those things out and said, okay, these are the things that you should probably focus on in order to better have a threat model that is specific to agriculture. Obviously, this is some things that we have seen. Securing communication using TLS is obviously a recommended guideline. It needs to be adhered to, especially in a low bandwidth network. Device identity and authentication is to be supported by unique identity, secure boot, and so on. Logical access control, anytime that is possible, either on the device, make it password protected, and also on the cloud side to be able to rotate these and enforce access control policies on those. The one important thing that we generally haven't seen is the collection of detailed inventory of all the firmware and the libraries that are used in the system. Typically, we don't ask for it or we don't look for from the practitioners. And that's a very important thing to analyze and find out if the firmware that you're using are indeed vulnerable. So you would want to ask for the software bill of material, like, looking for the third-party libraries, the open source libraries, anything that you do in-house, and the threat analysis and on those SBOMs as themselves. Some countermeasure remediations that you can obviously adhere to. These are only guidances. There's a lot more depending on what level in the stack that you're dealing with. So you could go after some of these, as you prefer. But we generally recommend looking at the device life cycle and finding out where exactly that you would need to protect, and make sure that you do constant over to air updates. Make sure you're hot on the communication channel, and also detect anomalies to see if there's any deviations in the flow, battery usage, things like that. This is hard to find if you don't have the logging and the alerting mechanism, or if you don't have any data collection mechanism related to how the devices are behaving. Um, so typically this is what would help you to expedite detecting anomalies. For example, you could have the irrigation supply, disrupted for quite a number of days, only to find out that it's been completely taken out. So there's quite a number of research opportunities, especially in this particular arena, and that's owing to the specific use case that we talked about, and the challenges, especially in the agricultural thing. The cyber hygiene is one of the core things that we may need to address, especially for non-technical operators, to make it easy and better to secure. So, enforcing the TLS, making sure your libraries, software, firmware, they're all up to date, is an important aspect. But then that's maybe too technical for practitioners. So we'll have to see what's the best way to do that. Um, Policy and compliance framework is a very important aspect. And more recently, the AI ML model on the robustness and the addressing some of these precision agriculture use cases. So our own particular research, most recently on this particular topic, is is in this slide. I'm happy to share the slide so you can take a look at it offline. So yeah, in summary, it's a high value target, and we have to have security thought through at various layers. Also ask for the industry-wide practitioners to relook at some of their aspects of security, devices, network, cloud, everything that you're dealing with whenever you're automating and digitizing those. So yeah, I mean, happy to share any further details. I have a few more slides. In the interest of time, I would just continue to Q&A, and if you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sai. Yeah, were there any questions on the presentation? Brian, go ahead.
Hey, Stan. Hey, Sai, that was a great presentation. Thanks. Yeah, I kind of wonder about like nowadays with all the stuff we can do with machine learning, AI, agents, and so on. Does it make sense to be able to sort of set something out there that can try to probe and poke and find the holes, and then kind of notify you, oh wait, I discovered this, rather than trying to have like a person comprehensively review and look at all that stuff? Does that even make sense, or is that even legal? Could you take that kind of approach? Maybe people do.
That's an interesting approach. I think there are ethical hacking services available that they do for other network and cloud infrastructure. I'm not sure if they are in the agriculture robotics thing, but that's an important, interesting aspect that can be looked at. I know one of the incidents that was talked about, this was back in 2020, I believe. This was the John Deere tractors, where ethical hackers from, I forget which university, but they went after finding these kind of loopholes to identify some things. And they effectively went ahead and disabled the tractor operation altogether. And yeah, that's a good way of looking at things. And I'm sure there are services. If not, people would seek those services. So you don't have to actually, go after looking yourself, but you could subscribe to such a service. Yeah, great possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question.
Sure, go ahead, Kit.
Hey, Sai, great presentation. I had a really just basic question. Are you guys part of the INSEC M cybersecurity cluster?
No, we are not.
Okay.
So happy to be part of it. What do they do? Just
I,
curious.
yeah, so it's sort of a collection of different kinds of organizations, consultants, service providers, government.
I see.
Yeah, so I'll connect with you offline. I'll send you the link and you can have a look.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I think as part of the question, the one thing that I would like to ask is what kind of standard guidelines, practices, anything that you use today? Because this could lead to disruptions as you see. So have you taken, have the practitioners taken into account this? Have you worked with any vendors that may offer such services?
I uh, I almost feel like generally a bunch of people right now on this call are sort of awkwardly thinking, I didn't even know this was necessarily the biggest issue.
Mm.
That would be I guess I would hazard, but I don't know if anyone from Haggerty can maybe comment on like some of the robots you guys are using and systems you're using, if that's ever popped up. I know at Vineland, anything we've worked on, this has maybe been some little fleeting thought somewhere that we should worry about some stuff like this, but anything we're developing is always really low on the relatively lower on the TRL chain. Um, and I think that some of the stuff that we are using on site, it is a thing that um, operations cares about, um, but maybe isn't up to speed as much as they should be on some of the tech and the sensors and the greenhouse management software and so on.
Yeah, great point. I think it's not until an incident happens that people look at it and say, "Hey, that was not possible."
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, it is as much as important as any other infrastructure to protect. So yeah.
I know in the in the ag space, there's been some farmers like with livestock barns who have been locked out of their computer controls. And I hate to, you don't like drawing broad accusations of like an activist agenda. So the livestock barn is targeted as part of a larger initiative, and so hacking is part of that anti-animal initiative. I don't want to say that those two are 100% linked because none of that stuff is ever proven. But I know in the ag community that's generally how it's felt. There have been multiple ag retailers who's had their software for spreading, for blending fertilizer accounting hacked and locked out for an entire season, trying to get out of this. In terms of the robots and things, I'm going to echo Brian's point. It's 100% on the radar. People are cognizant of it and they're worried about it. The issue is that we can all pretend that we're doing something about it, but honestly, do we know what we can do? Like, we haven't solved it on a PC in the last 35 years. So I'll guarantee we haven't solved it on a robot either. And I think as long as there are criminal minds, there's going to be a threat, and it's something that has to be managed. And I think this is where being able to access the software a different way. A lot of the robots have a central processing system that if something happens, you replace one component and run over it with a disk and whatever, and put a new computer in, and you're up and going again. So I think one of the benefits there is that they tend to be probably easier to resolve than, let's say, an integrated system in a greenhouse, for example. I think if I was a greenhouse operator, I'd be more worried than probably like a small little robot in the field.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Also, the number of moving parts in this case, being sensors, controllers. You have communication to some gateway that's sitting in your barn, maybe. There's a lot of those components. It's just not one PC anymore. And those add to the OTA patching, open network, for example. So yeah, those things need to be patched and at least have some plan to protect them.
I had a question, Sai, and it Taylor put a question in the comment that's very close to my question. So he said, is there a good general rule on the percentage of the balance sheet that cybersecurity specific IT costs should be for an SME? And it kind of relates to what I was wondering, which is like, have you given any consideration to the I guess who should bear the cost for the cybersecurity, particular of some of the things that are existing either on a cloud or proprietary software? Because Chuck's right, like in the greenhouse sector where they have they've invested quite a bit, but the marginal returns that you're getting on the product is low, and so it creates a barrier for people to adopt this technology. On the one hand, we're being told you have to get into this space to be able to compete into the future, but all the downside costs, you're the one that has to wear it. So how do you manage that in terms of making it affordable for individuals?
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good point. So as such, the things that we hear is that it's a cost which is a burden at this point on top of the infrastructure burden that that the practitioners have to spend. And generally, the cost is not low, especially the cyber tech and cyber industry is a little bit more technical than it needed to be. So, I mean, I think there are a few cyber insurers that are out there who protect. I know they protect other, network. For example, they protect the poultry network. They protect the cloud portion of that. I'm not necessarily sure if there's one for agriculture because that's a need. That's an open need, and then the economy of thing doesn't work yet. But in terms of the cost, I mean, that's almost has to be considered as part of the insurance, is what I see it. And it's not one vendor. Unfortunately, it's not just one vendor. So that's where we repeatedly see that, hey, you have a whole bunch of IoT firmware that we need to keep up to date. And then you also are working with a cloud provider. Neither of them are going to give any kind of assurance on the security aspect of it. So it's all end to end up to us. And that's where the challenge is. And the economy, I think we have not worked out that part of it yet. But it is also difficult to provide something that's at a low economical aspect because there's so many moving parts, and partly because this field is fairly technical. And then so the researchers or the actual practitioners who are making the changes or making recommendations are generally a high cost labor. So it is a challenge. And I'm not sure if we worked anything out just yet.
All right, Chuck, go ahead, and then after that, we'll move on for the rest of our agenda.
Well, I'm just gonna answer that. The cyber insurance is available to ag, because it kind of falls under your general business policy. I have no idea how effective it is and what, and I certainly don't want to try to find out. I think for any of you that are in the computer world, you should advertise on the dark web or wherever it is and just tell everybody that farmers don't make any money. So please don't attack us, right? Because we don't, your payouts aren't going to be as big as someone else. But
Well,
but
you
I
know,
think the insurance is there, and it is becoming a requirement for us to have it.
yeah,
I know in our space we're being told you must have it.
yeah. From what I learned, at least in doing the research, some of these are, I understand the financial aspect could be low, but they don't do it for that aspect. They actually want to disrupt these services. They want to bring down food shortages, for example, or they want to, bring down some of the automation that you've installed. So it is more of a fun aspect, and unfortunately, that is how the world is. So
Well, and that's what actually makes it a little scary, because
yeah,
the motives are hard to predict.
Yeah.
Okay. Drew, I see that your hand is up. I will get back to you. I just want to take a few minutes to make sure I can get through a few agenda items. And then once we get to the round table, I'll give you an opportunity to ask your question. Okay. I just want to make sure I can get through a couple of things.
perfect.
Sorry about that. Thanks so much. Sai, thanks so much for your presentation. We really appreciate it. And everybody, thank you for your great interaction and great questions.
Thank you all. Thank you, Dan. And I'll send across the slides so you can share with everyone.
Excellent. Thanks so much. So it's been 2 weeks since we met. So there were a few events that took place between then and now. There was the Earlton Farm Show, April 11th and 12th, the Grand River Agricultural Society Spark V4 Symposium on the 15th, and Discovery X took place on the 16th and 17th. Was there anybody who attended any of those events? And just want to give a quick update on your thoughts.
Yeah, and I can give a quick update on Earlton, the farm show. I mean, it was great. It's always sort of a spring reawakening for agriculture in the north up here, and attendance was record highs and lots of good information shared. But as far as innovation and technology, maybe not a lot of, other than regular, like, new equipment and stuff, but no demonstrations of much innovation. But we are looking forward to having the diagnostic day up here with a bunch of MAFA specialists and hopefully some ag innovation July 17th. So looking forward to that. I'll give you more details later.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Thanks, Barry. I myself was at Discovery X on the 16th. I thought it was a great little show, a lot different from the one, because normally we go to agricultural specific shows. This one was just sort of a technology and innovation in general show. So bit of a different vibe, but I thought it was really good. Had some, there's a few people on the call today who were here because we chatted with them at the show. So yeah, I thought it was a really good time.
Yeah, Dan, Keith here from Vertical Data. I thought the Discover X show was fantastic. Great group. It was really great to meet you there, Dan, as well. And the more and more that I learn about this networking organization that you have, I think there's a really good fit for the ag tech diagnostic, the actual hardware that goes in, if there's any cameras involved on any of these machines, if there's lots of data that needs to be farmed, if you will, and processed on the vision side or even on the modeling side. So I'm looking forward to having my CTO on and my CEO on just to do a brief presentation, but I'll get in line for that, Dan, for the next spot available. I'd love to be a guest and host a presentation and share it with the group. Yeah, really great to meet everyone. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Keith. And yeah, we can talk offline about setting something up.
100%. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
Perfect. Welcome. A couple of new upcoming events that got added from the Trade Commissioner Service. They're doing a few webinars. One is on ag tech opportunities in the Netherlands, which is taking place on April 29th. And the other one is opportunities in Australia taking place on June 23rd. So we've got the registrations up there if that's something that is of interest to you. So please do check that out. No new funding announcements or opportunities for this week. There are a couple of items here in the round table. The University of Guelph has a survey that they're asking some folks to complete. Tyler, if you're I think I saw that you were online. I don't know if that's something that you want to speak to since you're here. Unless I'm wrong. Oh, maybe he's not. I thought I saw that he was. Oh, my apologies. So, excuse me, if you work in the agricultural sector, they want to hear from you. They're studying how agricultural sector uses social media to connect, share information, and deal with misinformation. Survey will take approximately 20 minutes. The first 40 participants will receive a $25 gift card as a thank you. So if that's something you're interested in helping out the university with, the link is there in the agenda. And then also Rory Ring from the Chatham-Kent Chamber of Commerce, Chair of the Canadian Chamber Executives of Ontario and Director with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, is looking for contacts or leads that could assist the OCC with investigating the use of AI in the greenhouse industry, cash crop, egg sector in general, or even a developer of technology for the egg sector. So Rory's contact info is also in the agenda there, if that's something that you're maybe able to help with.
Can you send them Rosita from the University of Guelph, her contact info, because she's leading a lot of the AI stuff at Guelph.
Absolutely. Perfect. That does bring us to the round table. Drew, I'll pass it over to you to give you an opportunity to ask your question you had earlier.
Yeah, thank you very much. I had this question for Sai. Basically, a lot of the AI and especially in the vision space, oftentimes you need to upload some sort of detections or I mean data or results to the cloud. And as you mentioned, right, you gave an example that sometimes we've noticed hacking in the cloud itself. I was wondering if there are any best practices or things you can point to that can avoid uh, this hacking while you're using cloud, because uh, it will be a part of most of the technical solutions here.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of model training itself, there are tools that can take your data and try to anonymize those. In this case, it seems like you're doing videos. So that's kind of going to be hard to do as such, because you could potentially use artifacts of the video to spin something else. So the model training themselves, the model making sure the model itself is not manipulated is an important aspect, and that has to come through securing the model itself, which is like a high value target. Again, one of the core part of the research is exactly that. How do we avoid adversaries from getting into your AI model and manipulating the data that you would want to predict or do analysis or do any kind of automation using the model. But but before you even actually do that, there are tools that are commonly available today to make sure when you use these models uploaded to the cloud, there are tools that can securely transfer, that make sure that you're using TLS, make sure you're using known cloud services and things like that. So I think that part is figured out. The part that's hard is actually using the AI ML model to not throw in things that you don't want, right? Or the model uses your information and propagates it outside to the to the world. You use like OpenAI model, they clearly say that your data can be used to train the model to do something else. So
Okay.
you want to be mindful of that. So you want to make sure your model is constrained and local to your, or whatever your automation is, and not use like the OpenAI's model, because they would
Okay.
use your data. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Dan, just a couple more items just before everybody signs off. May 7th and 8th is the Agritech Venture Forum in Toronto. So anybody that's raising money, they might want to look at that event. I think there's still tickets available for it. It's a bit expensive, but I saw that there's going to be some robotics companies pitching at that event, and usually gets quite a few investors, and it's local. So that's coming up, and then in a few weeks we're going to be having a panel looking at AI chips and semiconductors, and so keep your eyes open for that event. I think it'll be an interesting one, and we'll have some good experts. Dan from Untethered and a few others on that. And I think that'll be a valuable one, especially for designers and engineers.
Awesome.
I'm not sure what the data on that one is, Dan. I think you've got it scheduled though.
I do, yeah. I don't have it off the top of my head. It's some mid to late May, I believe. Can't remember the exact day. Perfect. Thanks, Joe. That does bring us to our time for the week. I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to join us. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and we'll see you all on next week's call.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody. Thanks, Dan.
Good
Thanks,
weekend.
Jeff.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.